Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my video, and today I will be doing a build tutorial for a 4-inch copter build. So let's just get into it real quick here, try and keep this as short as possible. I'll give a quick overview of the parts I will be using. So for the frame, I'll be using the Dope Frames 4-inch InXect here. As you can see, it's a pretty cool looking design. I have a separate review video I did specifically on this frame. I'll leave a link down below. So that's the frame here. It is a 205mm diagonal, so really large for a 4-inch, but you know, it doesn't support 5-inch propellers, so you know, I don't think it's not really that big of a disadvantage because it's still fairly light. For the motors, I will be rocking the DYS. As you can see there, turn it, the DYS SE 1806 2700 kV race edition motors. Now you may be thinking right off the bat, oh, 1806, it's going to suck. Well, I'm really rooting for the 1806 because I feel like they'll provide the same amount of thrust versus amps over a 2205 on 4-inch because, you know, 4-inch is a lot lighter, easier prop to spin. However, I do have some Emax RS 2205 2600 kV red bottoms on the way to compare. I haven't done actually a thrust stand video. I got a thrust stand in I bought from Hobby King. I'll be comparing these, but I will urgently be building this with the 1806 motors, and then once I get used to that, I'll move up to the 2205 and just give you a video comparison to see what I think, if it's worth saving a little extra money for the 1806 or just going with the regular high KV 2205. Then next for the ESCs, I also got the DYS XM20A. So the version 1, which comes with the little solder pads here, no wires, really nice. They can run, I believe, 8 kHz multi-shot. I believe they're an F390 ESC, so you know, good performing ESC. It's been tried and true. It's been proven lots, so you know, pretty good ESC there. For the power distribution board, as always, I really love these things. I'll just be using a normal Maytech PDB with a 5 and 12 volt regulator on there. It's just really simple. This is the 20 amp version. I believe it's the version 3.1 if you can see it on the board there. For the flight controller, I'll be running the X-Racer F303 version 3.1, which is new from FPV model, and this allows an 8 kHz gyro update. So as you can see there, you can't see it through packaging, but the V3, which is nice and new. For the video transmitter, I'll be running the Dragonfly 200 milliwatt VTX. It's nice. It's got 40 channels, race band, on-off switch, button to change channels, pigtail, 200 milliwatts or 25 milliwatts, as well as a not switchable. You have to buy it beforehand on the site, and then a little screen to view your band and channels. So that's really nice. I love that transmitter. For the FPV camera, I'll be using an HS1177. You know, pretty standard. I just love those cams. Then for a receiver, I'll be rocking the FreeSky X4R SB. You can see I just bought this one from Banggood. It's actually really convenient. They offer it in the naked configuration, which it doesn't come with pins or the things on, since I direct solder anyways to save room and weight. That's really nice that I don't have to take all the pins out. And for propellers, I will be using the GemFam 4040 tri-blades, and I also have some of them in green. I got a set in green. I also got some DAL 5045 bullnose dual blades, as well as some DAL TJ 5045 tri-blades. So, or not 5045, 4045 to try out there. So a couple different props to try. It'll be interesting to see how the motors cope, the 2205 and the 1806. Okay, and then for a battery, I got the Turnigy Nanotech 4S 1000 mAh 45 to 90C. Just a standard JST balance plug and XD60 mains connector. And I got 3 of them there. And then for an FPV antenna, I'll probably be using something like an Aomway or TBS Triumph, something depending on what I have laying around. So there we go. That's all the parts there. So let's get down to the build and let's get this going. Alright, so here we are, and as you can see, I kind of already went ahead and took the liberty of assembling 3/4 of the frame so far. Or not the frame, but the motors and ESCs, and that is because I have gone through a couple different revisions on how I wanted to mount these and the order I did it. You can see this is just some super glue I spilled. I tried to get it off with acetone, but it came off a little, but it's not too noticeable unless you're in the right glare. So I'm going to show you how I did this. So first, I'm going to take the motor here. I'm using the 1806 for the first part of the build here, and I'll be switching to 2205s later probably. So I wanted the ESCs in these little box cover things here. I wanted them to just line up at the edges, so our motor wires are going to be right to here. And then I wanted them to be bunched up just a little bit so they can flex in the event of a crash. So it's going to be there, and it's going to look like that, about that long. So I'm going to go and cut these. Okay, so here are the motor wires. I got them cut, so I'm going to strip these and pre-tin them, and I already have pre-tinned the ESC pads here. So let's strip them quick. Okay, so let's just solder these up. I'm going to take this one. I made this wire on the end just a little bit longer so I can cross it over, because I like to do manual wire reversing. So because this one's going to need to spin clockwise on these motors for the red nuts, so I'm going to flip a motor over. Alright, there we go. Let's look these up close. So yeah, I got some real nice solder joints there, using just a tip to use pliers or something to really force the end of the wire down to get it real nice close against the pad. And you have a nice connection there. So now I'm just going to put this inside the case. You don't need to use these, but I kind of like them, so just extra protection. I don't want to hurt the ESC. So now I'm going to take a step and mount the motor here. Alright, so I'm going to get my motor screws, and there are two different sets that come with these. There are a shorter set and a longer one. If you can see here, hopefully. Get these set out. So you can see there's a shorter one and a longer one, and that is due to different length or thicknesses of arms. But we have a 4mm base plate here, so I'm going to need to use the thicker arms to get up into there. So first I'm going to get one in. And then for the ESC, I'm going to bunch the wires up just a little bit so I can get the ESC. I want them all to line up right with the edges of the arms. You can see I have here sort of on the body, so it's going to go right there. So I'm going to take a little zip tie and just run it around. And since there's that cover there, we don't need any heat shrink, we don't need any foam under it. Just real nice protector, I think. It's not that it adds a little bit of weight, but you know, it's very minimal, as well as it's a lot of protection. So I'm gonna just pull this guy tight. Don't want to go crazy because it's just gonna collapse in the plastic on this. I'm gonna take a sharp part of my knife. The tip's not very sharp anymore. Now let's just cut that guy right off. And then I'm gonna use a little bit of super glue here. I don't really recommend this because you could spill it easy, and you do want some things to flex, but I've already done it on 3 of the 4 arms and ESCs, so might as well finish it out and do the 4th one. I'm just putting a very light layer around the edges, and that should firm it up and be super solid in seconds. Alright, so there we go. We have all our 4 motors and ESCs mounted on the InXect frame. Everything's looking good. A little bit of super glue spill there, so it's another thing why I don't really recommend it. So now basically we're looking to, I'm going to mount my power distribution board, which is this little Maytech PDB. So it's just going to go in here with a couple little standoffs, and then we'll get everything mounted up and start soldering it on. Alright, here we are. So I went just one step ahead, and as you can see, I have these little standoffs here mounted to the frame. And basically it comes with some nylon spacers and standoffs in the frame kit. However, it's really not enough to use effectively. You'd have to be pretty creative to use it, and it only accounts for a flight controller, so you don't have the PDB. So I'd highly suggest getting one of these kits off of eBay. They're like $8 for 2 of them, a white and black set with different tons of different size spacers in here. So basically what I did was I used 2 of these just little nylon screws. I just they're like 6.5 millimeters, 6 millimeters. Put them through the frame. You can see through the 4 holes here, and then I used one of the included spacers along here. Hopefully you can see. And then I basically just used another washer on top of that, another little nut there, because to mount the PDB on here, it's gonna go like this. Basically, it's just gonna sit on there. So I also, when I fit my receiver, this is the X4R SB Free Sky receiver. It's just D-pinned and everything, ready for S-Bus. I like to set them down underneath there, and just to give me a little bit more room, I just raised it up with a washer. So first I'm going to solder on some wires for our S-Bus connection, and then I'm going to wrap this in heat shrink and stick it down to the frame. Okay, here I have some wire for the receiver just to get our connection just off some old ESCs. See, it has a bullet connector on here. I'll have to cut that off. So I'm going to use blue for signal, red for positive, and black for ground here. So I'll just... Alright, there we go. And if we take a quick close-up look at our receiver, you can see I've already tinned these pads in the front here along these 3. So the top, or the left one, I believe is signal, and then it goes positive ground. So I'm going to solder the blue one on, and then the red, and then the black. Alright, so there you go. You can see it's all neat just like that. So now I'm going to take our electrical tape here, just yellow, because I'm going to be doing a yellow themed build, and wrap it up. Alright, so I now have the receiver all taped up. You can see here I added the 3 wires. So once again, on the front row of pads, you're going to want signal, positive, and ground. And I also secured them up with some hot glue all around there, because the connections are going to be quite weak against the pad, but this way the hot glue prevents all the stress from there. Now it's just out on the wire, so that's going to be a problem. And these wires should be just long enough to reach up and then wrap back around to the flight controller, because we're going to have the receiver and the PDB, then another layer for the flight controller, and then the wires are just going to wrap up. I'm going to direct solder. So, and now it is worth mentioning, I did cut a hole for the little telemetry port on the receiver, but I don't use that, so, but you know, you just don't want to break anything, as well as cut a hole for the bind button. And it is definitely a good tip to bind this and make sure it's working before you fully install and finish up your build, because it will be pretty tight to get in there once you have this on to get the bind button. But I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to check it, and I think I'll be able to get it with a pair of tweezers in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in. So I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape here. Stuff works great. Just peel this off. And if the board's going forwards, I'm going to want the things to wrap up around this way, so I'm going to have to face my antennas up. I'm going to put it to the side a little so I can get the bind button a little easier, and try and squish it down. It'll be good enough. It's not 100% firm in there, but it is plenty firm enough to hold it for in-flight, anything in flight. So now that that's done, the power distribution board's really going to go on next. So I'm going to want the battery to come out the back, so I'm going to put that on there. Just slides over, and now I'm going to have to measure up all my ESC leads, and you can see they're going to be very tight here, so it's going to be a nice, clean, lightweight build. So I'm just going to cut all these to length and start cutting, tinning, soldering, you know, and get everything wired up. So let's do that. Alright, here we are back again. Let's get an update on the progress. Sorry about the time-lapse stop there. My camera died, but as you can see, I have all the ESCs wired up here, so all the ESCs are good to go for the power. Obviously, the signal and ground for the flight controller we still have yet to do. But next, I'm going to I made this little battery lead. I didn't do this on camera. I did it while the camera was recharging, actually. I just made a little XT60 out of some 14 gauge wire because that's the same gauge that's on the batteries I got, a 4S1000. So we're gonna basically, I've been kind of debating on where I want to put this. I was gonna go up just out the side here, shorter, save more weight. But then I think I decided that I'm gonna do this, put it down the back on the opposite sides of this post, and then bend it up on the side. Because once the top plate comes on, it would be nice to just put it straight out the back, but this has a point on this top plate, so if I put it out the side, because I think that might work. So I'm going to work on that and hopefully get some footage for you. Alright, there we go. That's a strong connection there. And let's just get that over. So yeah, it looks like that'll work pretty well there. I might put a zip tie on the wires down here. Not the prettiest, but you know, it should work just fine there for our battery connector. So next we're going to have to think about our VTX and camera power from this. Alright, so I have everything, all the components here for moving on. So while we have the power distribution board here, it would be advantageous before we mount the flight controller to get some more wires on here to power our video transmitter, our camera, and our flight controller itself, as well as if you want to put LEDs on here. I'm not going to put LEDs on, but for the flight controller, I usually just like to just take two little wires. In this case, I got a little yellow and black. I'll put this 5-volt pad right here. I'll just solder them right onto the 5-volt pad. I will run them over top the board, out to this side, and up over. Because once the flight controller is mounted here, this is right where the ESC inputs are, and I'll just solder that directly to a positive and a minus, or a negative, for one of the ESCs, and that will power the board, which will then power the receiver once I bring all three of these wires up to the S-bus connection. Then for the video transmitter, what I like to do, this does have a, if you can look, I don't know if it'll focus here, yeah, if you can see that, it does have a 5-volt in, a ground, the video, and then a ground and a 5-volt out. So this can supply 5 volts out for your camera. However, what I like to do is remove the 5-volt out and ground cable from here to mount this. I just power it directly from the 12-volt pads. Over here I select 12 volts. I'll give you a closer shot of this later when I'm actually doing it. Then I'll put the signal wire on there. Then I'll take the camera, which will be up here. Comes with this little lead. I'll plug that in. I'll cut this servo connector cable off and I'll solder that on. I'll choose 5 volts for this side and just solder the video cable onto here. It's kind of like a pass-through. It just connects some, makes it easier, a little bit more mobile. So basically that's how I'm going to power everything. Really simple. Everything's just going to come off of here. So let's start getting some of these wires on. I'll do the wires for the flight controller I'm going to use first. Alright, so here we are back again. I made a little bit more progress, so I'll just show you what I have done here. So as you can see, I added these two cables here, which is this one over here is going to plug into the video transmitter, which I plan to mount under the top plate. And the other one comes up for the camera, which will sit right up front here, so that and that right there. And basically what I did was I selected the voltages. There's little pads, you can't really see it. There's little pads on this board. One says for the VTX side 12, and the other one says VCC. And there's two little pads, and you have to bridge them vertically. So the top and the bottom ones below the 12 volts for what I want. The VCC means the actual battery current, or the voltage. So whatever voltage your battery is at, you'll get out of those pads. But I want to limit it to 12 volts for my video transmitter to help voltage spikes from the ESCs, so it regulates it a little bit. So you just do that. And then you have your negative, positive, and signal leads for the VTX here. And then same on the camera side, you have negative, positive signal. And those negative and positive just give you 12 volts from here. And on the camera side, I actually selected, there's a 12, 5, and VCC, and I selected the 5 volt option actually. And the yellow wires basically are just bridged together through the board, but this allows this connector to go this way, and it just makes it an easier connection, as well as giving you your controlled voltages. So now I'm just going to, since these are plastic wires, not silicone, and they are very small, so it's a weak joint, I'm going to hit them with some hot glue real quick. I just like to do this because they're very weak. And helps give some extra support, because if those come off, they're not going to be very easy to get back on. So that looks good. So basically next, everything's just going to move out of the way, and the flight controller is going to go on just like that. And I'll start wiring everything else up, plugging things in, and just basically finishing up the physical build of this, and then we'll get on. It's moving along here. It's looking pretty good so far. So thanks for watching. This was the end of part 1 of this build. There will be part 2 coming soon. I've split it up just so I can get this out, because it's going to take me a while. Just filming takes a long time. So thanks for watching. Please, hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, and I will see you in part 2 if you want to come back. Bye.